Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that's pretty special, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
We're celebrating a pretty big milestone today,
A big one.
the 1,000th issue of Concentrate.
Wow.
Yeah, 1,000. Can you believe that? It's 1,000 deep dives into the world of tech and all the trends and cool stuff that's coming out.
It's amazing, especially with how fast things change in the tech world.
Right. Like to stay relevant that long. And for people to actually, still read it after 1,000 issues, that says a lot.
For sure. It definitely shows it's something special.
And speaking of special, we got to give a shout out to Paul Armstrong, the mastermind behind it all.
Absolutely.
This guy, he's like the tech whisperer or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He's been doing this for over 20 years. Can you believe that?
That's a long time to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Advising Fortune 500 companies, writing for Forbes, Reuters. He even wrote a book on disruptive tech, right?
Yeah, I read that. Really insightful.
So basically, he's a walking encyclopedia of all things tech. And today, we're diving into his latest issue, which is all about disruption.
Should be interesting.
Right. So the newsletter really emphasizes this idea of disruption as like the defining characteristic of the last decade.
I can see that.
Armstrong argues that it's not just some empty buzzword, but the actual driving force behind the biggest changes we've seen.
Makes sense.
Think about it, social media. Completely
I
changed
know.
how we connect with each other, right?
Yeah, it's like we went from writing letters to instant messaging overnight.
It's crazy. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the pandemic hits and throws another wrench in the works.
Oh, absolutely. The pandemic was a huge disruption to, well, everything.
Exactly. Like suddenly remote work wasn't just this cool perk that some companies offered.
Right.
It was a necessity practically overnight.
Millions of people working from home all at once.
Exactly. And it's like we adapted, we figured it out.
Humans are remarkably adaptable when we have to be.
True, true. And on top of all that, we've got quantum computing.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's gone from being this theoretical thing scientists talk about to something that's almost a reality.
It's mind-blowing. Like, the potential is just immense.
Totally. And then you've got gene editing with tools like CRISPR.
Which, by the way, is an incredible breakthrough.
Right. It's like using a really tiny, precise tool to make changes to our DNA.
It's remarkable what they can do with it.
Potentially curing genetic diseases and stuff, but it definitely raises some ethical questions.
Yeah. You think? Messing with the very building blocks of life.
I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing, right? To think that we could rewrite our own DNA.
That's a lot of power.
It is. And with great power, you know the rest.
Comes great responsibility, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, we can't forget about AI.
AI is everywhere these days.
Seriously, it's like self-driving cars, personalized medicine. It's insane. But it also makes you wonder about, what happens to jobs.
That's a valid concern. With AI automating more tasks, it's bound to have an impact on the job market.
And then there are the ethical considerations around AI development, making sure it's used for good and all that.
Absolutely. We can't just unleash powerful AI without considering the consequences.
Right. And don't even get me started on the whole 5G and Internet of Things thing.
Everything is connected these days.
Seriously, my refrigerator can probably send me a text message now if I'm out of milk.
It's amazing and a little creepy, right?
It is. It's like super convenient, but it also makes you think twice about data privacy and all that.
Definitely a trade-off to consider.
For sure. So, yeah, it's been a wild ride this past decade, and it seems like things are only going to get crazier.
Oh, absolutely. We're just getting started.
And that is where things get really interesting, right?
Exactly. Buckle up, because the future of tech is going to be one heck of a ride.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like all these disruptions, social media and AI, even the Internet of Things, they're all kind of like puzzle pieces,
Okay, I like that analogy. Keep going.
So as we move into the next decade, we're going to see how all these pieces fit together, how they interact and shape the future.
It's not just about them advancing separately, right? It's more like how they combine and create something totally new and unexpected.
Exactly. Like, remember those old flip phones that had those built-in cameras?
Oh, yeah. Like, who thought those were a good idea at the time?
At first, it was like, okay, two separate things I use all the time, now mashed into one gadget. But looking back, it paved the way for smartphones, which changed everything.
And now we walk around with more computing power in our pockets than entire generations had before.
Exactly. That's what's so exciting and honestly a bit intimidating about this whole convergence thing.
We're on the verge of something huge, aren't we?
We are. And Armstrong, he gets that. He dives into some specific areas he thinks are ripe for disruption in the coming years.
Okay, so what does he see? What should we be keeping an eye on?
Well, he's predicting a major shakeup in the energy sector.
Energy, like what, solar panels and stuff?
That and more. Think breakthroughs in energy storage and transmission.
Okay, so it's not just about generating more clean energy, it's about storing it and actually getting it to where it needs to be.
Exactly. Imagine a world where we rely less on fossil fuels and more on renewables.
Now that's a future I can get behind.
Imagine entire industries transformed, global power dynamics shifting. You might even be able to charge your electric car straight from your solar roof.
Okay, now that's the future I was promised. Sign me up for that solar roof. But seriously, what happens to those big energy companies, the ones all about fossil fuels? Talk about disruption, right?
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. It'll be a fascinating evolution.
For sure. And that's just one thing on the horizon, right? Yeah. What else did Armstrong mention?
Well, he also talks about quantum computing and its potential.
Okay, before we go there,
hmm
can we get a quick, explain it like I'm 5 on what quantum computing actually is? Because I still don't fully get it.
It's complicated. Basically, quantum computing uses quantum mechanics to do calculations way faster than even the most powerful computers we have now.
Okay.
So think of it this way. A normal computer uses bits, which are like tiny switches, either on or off, 1 or 0, right?
Right.
Quantum computers use qubits, which can be a 1, a 0, or both at the same time. It's like adding a whole new dimension to computing power.
Okay, the more. Kind of makes sense. It's like instead of a light switch being just on or off, you can have it dimmed, brightened, different colors, all at once.
Exactly. And with that power, we could solve problems that are impossible even for our most advanced computers today. Things like designing life-saving drugs, developing new materials, and, as Armstrong points out, cracking encryption codes that protect our data online.
Wait, seriously. So someone could just use a quantum computer to hack into anything?
It's a real concern. Our current encryption methods would be vulnerable. But thankfully, researchers are working on quantum-resistant algorithms.
So it's like a tech arms race. As quantum computers get stronger, so do the defenses.
Exactly. And Armstrong didn't just talk about tech either. He brought up something interesting about geopolitics.
Geopolitics,
Wow.
like international relations and stuff. What's that got to do with technology?
Well, he talked about how the tension between the U.S. and China, especially in the tech world, could have a big impact on these emerging technologies.
Oh, right, because they're both kind of competing to be the leaders in tech, right?
Exactly. And Armstrong suggests a few scenarios. Like, we might see a sort of digital iron curtain where the U.S. and China develop completely separate tech ecosystems.
Wow, a digital iron curtain. That sounds intense. What would that even look like?
It could mean less collaboration, slower progress overall, as each side focuses on its own thing. But it could also lead to a tech race, pushing both sides to innovate faster.
So a tech Cold War, kind of, except instead of nukes, it's quantum computers and AI.
Something like that. And it's not just the US and China either. Other countries are also becoming major players in tech, like India, for example.
So it's not just a two-player game anymore. It's a whole global tech competition.
Exactly. A marathon with some very high stakes.
Wow, okay, so we've got energy, quantum, geopolitics. Is there anything else Armstrong thinks we should be paying attention to?
He emphasizes one major trend that he believes will define the next decade: convergence.
Convergence. Okay, I've heard that word thrown around a lot, but what does it actually mean in this context?
It means that all these individual technologies, AI, quantum computing, gene editing, the Internet of Things, they're not just going to keep advancing on their own.
Okay.
They're going to start to converge, to overlap and influence each other in ways we can't even imagine yet.
So it's like, what happens when you take the best of AI and combine it with the best of, say, gene editing or quantum computing?
Exactly. And that's what he calls the fourth industrial revolution.
Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Okay, that sounds kind of ominous. Is that a good thing or bad thing? It depends on how we handle it, really. It has the potential to change every aspect of our lives, but it also comes with its own set of challenges.
Okay, so what does that mean for us, for everyday people?
Yeah.
How will this fourth industrial revolution actually affect our lives?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we're entering this whole new world, right? With all these crazy technologies.
Mhm.
But when you really think about it, it's a lot to take in, Like, what does this actually mean for us? What should we be excited about? What should we, maybe be a little worried about?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the thing is, Armstrong doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. He dives right into both the amazing opportunities and the very real challenges that come with this whole fourth industrial revolution thing.
Yeah, because it's not enough to just have all this amazing tech, right? It has to benefit everyone.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest challenges he talks about, making sure everyone has equal access to these technologies.
Yeah, and that's something we see all the time, right? Like when new tech comes out, it usually benefits those who are already, ahead of the game.
It's true. The digital divide is a perfect example. Even with the internet, it took time and effort to make it accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And now imagine that happening with AI, quantum computing, gene editing. We can't let the gap widen even further, right?
Absolutely. The stakes are too high. We risk creating a world where only a select few get to reap the benefits of these advancements, while everyone else gets left behind.
Okay, so that's a pretty sobering thought.
hmm
So how do we prevent that from happening? How do we make sure everyone has a seat at the table, so to speak?
Well, Armstrong talks about a few key things. We need to focus on education, for one, making sure future generations have the skills and knowledge to not just use these technologies, but to really understand them.
So it's not just about teaching kids how to code, right? It's about fostering critical thinking,
Mhm.
digital literacy, all those things that will help them thrive in a world that's becoming increasingly digital.
Exactly. And it's not just about the kids either. We need to think about upskilling and reskilling the current workforce.
Right, because the job market's going to look totally different in the age of AI and all that, right? Some jobs will disappear, but new ones will pop up.
And we need to be ready for that shift. We need to be adaptable, willing to learn new things throughout our lives.
So, like, we have to adapt alongside the technology, right? And not just our skills, but maybe our whole mindset, too.
Absolutely. But even with all the right skills and education, there's another crucial aspect we need to address, the ethical side of things.
Right, because all this power, all this potential, it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Exactly. We've already talked about data privacy, algorithmic bias, the possibility of misuse. And as these technologies become even more powerful, these ethical dilemmas will only get more complex.
It's like for every question we answer, 10 more pop up. Right, it's messy and unpredictable,
Yeah.
but hey, that's progress for you, right? But it's also a chance to really think about what kind of future we want to build.
And that's where it all starts, with awareness. We need to be informed about these technologies, understand what they can do, both good and bad, and have open conversations about the future we're heading towards.
It's like they say, knowledge is power, right? We can't just sit back and let technology dictate our future. We have to be active participants in shaping it. And that's where resources like Concentrate come in.
Absolutely. They give us the information we need to navigate this rapidly changing landscape and make informed decisions.
Exactly. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, a little unsure about what it all means, check out Concentrate. You can find it at concentrate.substack.com. It's a treasure trove of insights, and it might just give you that clarity you're looking for.
It's definitely a must-read for anyone who wants to stay ahead of the curve and understand the forces shaping our future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, as we celebrate the 1000th issue of Concentrate, let's also celebrate our own curiosity, our drive to explore the unknown, and our courage to shape our destinies in this crazy, exciting world of tech.
Hear,
It's
hear.
been an amazing deep dive, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Eye-opening, really.
And on that note, as we wrap things up here, we'll leave you with this. As these technologies keep evolving at lightning speed, what role do you see for yourself in all of this? What kind of future will you help create? Because the possibilities, they really are limitless.